Ladies and gentlemen, you are now listening to the Talking Nonsense About Impact Wrestling podcast. Cross the line in 3, 2, 1.
What is going on, my Impact Wrestling fam? Welcome to episode 135 of the Talking Nonsense About Impact Wrestling podcast. My name is Geoff, and we got a deep one for you. A lot to talk about. Sacrifice and Multiverse both coming up before... Well, next week we'll have Lucha back for the post-Sacrifice show. But I also want to preview Multiverse as well, since that'll be on a Thursday. I want to go over the show that was Impact on Access TV, of course. But we, of course, have some interesting topics. Taya officially going to AEW. Kylan King officially signing. Scott being promoted. Action figures going out. And a semi-live episode of Impact coming for Multiverse preview show? I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one, so we'll talk about that. But how you guys doing? Welcome back. Thank you for joining me yet again. If it's here live every Sunday, 8 p.m., twitch.tv/TNAIWChannel, or you're watching this on YouTube or anywhere in between, I thank you. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, all that jazz. We were at 359 still. We went to 358, back 359 on Sundays. I think it's just someone trying to mess with our algorithm, but hey, here nor there. If you want to mess with it and help me as well, just make sure you hit the thumbs up, hit subscribe. And thank you to all on Twitter who got us to 4,000 finally. We are there. We are finally at 4,000. Shout out to Io and the great work he does on the Twitter machine. We'll see if this chat lights up, but either way, like I said, we have a deep show for you, a lot to talk about, and some fun stuff as well that popped up, not just serious news. We do got some of that as well, but first and foremost, or next, I don't know where I'm at. It's going to be a fun one. I want to make sure you're checking out the other shows on this channel, including GoGoPowerRankings every Tuesday, Lucha Datala and Burt, Tuesday 7 p.m. And then if you got to see Talking Bloody Nonsense, Mr. Impact Craig, who's been with us pretty much since day one here, taking a little bit of break. They're going to be taking a break. I'm going to try to get everyone back on the channel when they have time, and the world slows down a little bit. But want to shout out them, send them some love. Make sure you guys keep them in the loop of the world of professional wrestling. I mean, they are, but you know what I mean. All right, but speaking of that, professional wrestling, we got this little thing called the Power Rankings, and we have a Power Rankings committee if you're interested in joining. It's at BurtMacklin11 on Twitter or at TNAIWChannel. Really simple. In there, after Impact on Access TV's show, you 1 through 10 ranking. And then by Sunday, by noon, we add it up, we make a video, we put it out, and it looks something, if I could get the button right, something like this.
Number 10, Digital Media Champion Joe Henry. Number 9, Jay Vidal with Giselle Shaw and Savannah Evans. Number 8, French-Canadian Frankenstein PCO. Number 7, Eddie Edwards and Kenny King. Number 6, World Champion Mickey James. Number 5, Jonathan Gresham and Mike Bailey. Number 4, World Champion Josh Alexander. Number 3, Tag Team Champions The Bullet Club. Number 2, New Tag Team Champions The Coven. Number 1 contender Steve Macklin.
All right, what do you guys think of the Power Rankings? They'll tell you their opinion on Tuesdays. Go Power Rankings. For me, look, it's going to be, we're getting to a place where the episode is full of talented wrestlers and entertainers. And when that happens, you're going to have some people out of here that definitely are off the list that definitely could have made it. And then some numbers that we can debate and argue about, but I'll leave that to them. Do like seeing the rise of Macklin continue. We'll get to that when we talk about the show itself. I'll actually get to that. But yeah, if you guys want to join at BurtMacklin11 at TNAIWChannel, 30 seconds of your time. And yeah, it's a fun thing. It's a fun thing to see. What's going on, Millard? Great top 10 this week. Good. I agree. Was gonna see if wait to see if anyone rolled in. Millard's here, so and thank you to everyone who does hide there in the shadows as well. The numbers been looking good there. Numbers all around up to 141 this week. So thank you on that as well, guys. But I do know who is watching the show. At least one person that works for Impact Wrestling. Let's get right into that, because let's talk about BTI. I always start there. If you're new to this show, I always say the same thing about BTI. I understand if you want to make the point of, I don't want to watch a recap of a show I avidly watch. Understand. But that last 15 minutes at least, especially with the matchup and the Iceman intel, nice little nugget to set the tone for the night. And the match tends to have some kind of ramifications throughout the show or the weeks to come. In the case of Bailey versus Gresham, we're still getting some of that. But here for Iceman Intel, he's on location. And he's talking about the driver. Who is the driver that hit PCO? We talked about that last week. I still think it's Rikishi. And he did it for The Rock. But did we get our answer tonight? Let me know what you guys think, and when we get to it, we could talk about it a little bit more. But the point I was making, and this one's going to be for you guys who watch this show. We talk about it all the time. What do we need for Raj and Bhupinder and them? Fur coats, Lambos, neons, money, right? Let's do that. And Champagne Singh makes his debut, and I could not be any happier. This is definitely a step one to where we're heading. Him and Shira looking slick. Rolling that Vegas money out there. Flaunting that. Changed his name on the roster page and everything. I like this, man. I still think I need that Vince Russo end your spike deal kind of deal. If you guys want to make that with me, Impact. Do a little, I'll keep it on the hush. But but I like this. I like this for him. Saw some people online kind of whatever about Raj, but I don't know, man. I saw people saying another push. I don't think this dude's ever got the consistent W in the column push. And I like where this is taking him and Shira, man. Adding depth. I think it was Millard actually who said it last week, that minute promo with Rich. Added an insane amount of depth to the character that we hadn't had before. And this just added to it. Io actually mentioned that he can't wait to see the segments or the vignettes that could come out of this. And I'm right there with them. But no matter how it got booked, I'm excited to happen. And Champagne Singh, I'm looking forward to see what continues with this. But he's going to get the W over Zicky Dice. And they're coming down with DJs to the ring. And the reason I mention this, obviously, besides that it happened and when you could see it, was that we always make sure, and I didn't even know it was the guy until later, we always make sure to retweet this Vegas DJ, one of them, Hernandez, was that the last name? Who always has some great interviews with Impact talent when they're in Vegas, so check him out. But he wins with the champagne pop here, the road to 50. I don't know, this doesn't even include it, right? Because Swinger's not going to... Yeah, Swinger's got to be the one that wins. Well, either way, they get the L here. And Champagne Singh with Shira is picking up the dub. Next, we're going to the main card here. And speaking of Bailey and Gresham, they're teaming yet again, this time against Decay. Decay getting some more play as a tag team since this whole Trey thing, so that's nice. Obviously, throughout the course of the night, we're going to see some things that maybe allude to Decay coming back together. But the biggest take away from this, first of all, Bailey and Gresham going to pick up the dub. Ultimo Weapon for the win. Some great teamwork between the two here. Don't think it lasts. I still think we're going to where we're headed in Canada. But they're going to get the win here. And at the end, they kind of do that slapping back and forth. Hey, bud, right? Harder slap, shake hands kind of thing. Show there's a little tension, but we're still rivals but friends for the time being, at least. The main takeaway I had for this, though, and I want to bring this up, is if you're an Impact follower for a while, there was times where maybe some of the matches were just there. They were taped a lot at once. They didn't really have meat on the bones, maybe sometimes going through the motions. I'm not talking more recent, but we could all remember there was a point. And to have people that, and Decay is no slubs by any stretch of the imagination. But you have people on the roster like Bayley and Gresham who, anytime their music hits or every time they're in the ring, you know whoever they're facing is going to be elevated. We're going to have a banger of a match. And even if it's a first out tag match that has no meat on the bones when it comes to feud or rivalry here with Decay and Bayley and Gresham, you're going to get a good story and you're going to be entertained. And it's really cool to have that on the roster, to have them signed nonetheless. So pretty cool there. Where this continues, a lot to talk about, so we continue on. Next up, Gia's back with Josh, Kaz, and Rich, and they're talking about Sacrifice. And tonight, though, they're going to try to put another nail in the Bullet Club group. Kaz with a little slip up there about Sacrifice. At Sacrifice, they will be facing Time Machine. We'll go over that later. But nonetheless, how cool is it to have Kaz there, Rich? They all look like primetime players. Love this. And then the next primetime player, Macklin, comes out. And Macklin's saying he's keeping the people that he's beaten before next to him, which is true. At the same time, neither of them, have been making threats to Josh for month after month. So, here nor there. Either way, Macklin looking like world heavyweight material. Looking the part. Sounding the part. And, even though he's being the antagonist here, it's still not over-the-top heel. So I still think we're going to go for that double face, as Millar likes to mention as well. And, or not double face, but the double turn with Josh and Macklin at some point. Probably Rebellion. But, like this. And for whoever is watching, that might work or no impact people. I have a great 10 episode arc for Rich Swann if you want to take him to another level as well. Pretty good shit. Anywho, Gia's back up again, and this time she's interviewing Giselle, Jay, and Savannah. I like this for multiple reasons. One, I said it on one of my random tweets I put on there, but very feels like Giselle has a entourage, right? She has a group, which I really dig. I think it was important to establish her. I mean, after giving her every moniker and all these things, and maybe her original storyline would look to be with Lady Frost kind of pattered for whatever reason. They got her on the right track. They got her some backup. So even if someone doesn't take her seriously as a challenger, even though she's had some bangers lately, Mickey comes to mind specifically. Couple with Mickey, right? And obviously Deanna. We're going to run that back at Sacrifice. It gives her credibility right away. You have some backup that both know how to kick ass. In this case, Dyson Swinger just didn't know that Jay was a wrestler as well. But we're going to book that match for later. Jay Vidal versus Johnny Swinger on the road to they're to 50. So keep moving on here. And Macklin is going to take on Heath in a one-on-one contest. I keep saying it. I'm going to keep saying it. Everything Macklin does to the way he wrestles, that brawler style, where every hit kind of feels hard and feels important. It works really well for someone who needs to go out there, have their music hit, and take down a bunch of people. So I still think we're headed where I'm going to keep beating that drum. But Macklin looking like the main eventer that he's going to be. Now, do I think he can be a ring general and carry people, like I said, with Bayley and Gresham? I don't know if he's at that level in the ring. You could tell he continuously works on his game. And I think Impact would do a great job of making sure they're not going to waste all this time not to put him in a great spot. And the people he'll be facing, the Joshes and whoever's of the world, when he does finally win that title, will be just fine. Sometimes all you need is a little bit of practice as champion, and those kind of other things go away. But I really liked Austin Forearms. I saw some of that. I always say that he's the ringmaster right before Stone Cold. And he's picking up the win over here on Heath. So keeping his momentum going. looking strong in the process. We'll see him later as well, kind of popping his head up. But Macklin on that rise. Next up is the Death Dolls, and they're backstage. Now, this is an interesting segment. We're going to talk about Taya a little bit as well, and where I think this goes. But the Death Dolls are talking back there, and they're talking magic. Havoc, shout out to Havoc, by the way, because I was one of those people that wasn't a proponent of the Death Dolls, not necessarily when they were formed, but of what I wanted out of these 3 knockouts, I guess. More tag teams, not just, right. But we got the trio, and they held it down, man. I don't know if I like the longest reigning female knockouts tag team champions thing. Look, either we delete the EY and ODB one, or we let someone beat it. But this longest, I don't like that. It's cheese. But love the Death Dolls. Go buy their dolls, and love Havoc with the light up, the gem stickers on there, man. Love that stuff. But I don't think it's lasting, guys. And we see after Havoc goes to get ready with her mimosas, they're gonna talk about that, and they're gonna, and that's something I really didn't think of. That's how we get there, how we get rid of Taya. Maybe is that Taya's really the one that's been pushing this, right? Rosemary's always been telling her, don't mess with it. Let's keep her as Havoc. So she's in the clear. Taya is not, and that was something that was obviously spotlighted here, and we obviously could see something going down in a few. Was it next couple weeks? You think? I imagine. Well, they dropped the titles. I don't know if they're going to get a rematch, at least in this this version of them, with 3 of them. But with Taya already appearing on AEW, as we all saw coming, it looks inevitable. So maybe next week. But either way, I'm going to guess this goes Undead Realm. Some kind of killing. Havoc, turning back into that. Do we get Sue finally? I don't know. Hey, 76 Philly, what's up? Gotta say, I wasn't expecting much with just a gimmick, but I've actually enjoyed it even more than Havoc. Kind of hoping that if they do change the gimmick, that's maybe a mixture of both. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Because I'm right there with you. It's not that I, was rooting for Jessica to fail. It was, I like Havoc, and then now I like this, so I hope there is an iteration that's a nice blend. And either way, it's going to be a different Havoc of some sort, and we still get, I'm hoping, Decay reformed, bring back that powerhouse of a group. Still keeps a tag team, Knockouts tag team together, but a different form. If Sue comes along, that's cool, and you can see how they're adding some new people into things, so hopefully we're growing that division. But, I think we're going to end up with a little bunny treatment here, and it sends Taya off. I will say this. Look, I understand when you're not a exclusive in an exclusive contract. So this is not on Taya whatsoever. I said that last week. Go, Taya. Earn your money, man. Earn your spotlight. Get that shine. She deserves it. She's the longest reigning knockout of champion of all time, and the longest reigning knockouts female tag team champion of all time as well. But no, she's done enough here, man. And if she wants to, make a push elsewhere, go for it. No harm, no foul. She's Impact royalty, but Lucha royalty as well. But that being said, I don't like, and was she carrying the MLW belt at the same time? Not sure. But I hate when they do that, man. There used to be a time, and maybe I'm reminiscing and I'm wrong, but I feel like they would wait till you wrapped up with your other company before they put you on TV. I don't know. I know we're not in that age anymore with so much content, but it's just one of those things that just kind of irks me. But business is business, right? So we'll see wish we'd exchange Taya for the bunny. It is the Undead Realm. They just come right through. Hey, I would love that, because if that were to happen, I'm not saying that is, or obviously there's any, maybe, who knows? This world's crazy. But say that were to happen, Sue comes as well. You can maybe put Sue and Havoc, Bunny and Rosemary together. Obviously, you have Giselle and Savannah in the shadows, and you have the Coven, who are the new tag team champions. 76 Phil saying it's annoying because it's happened twice now already. First the Kingdom before their title change, and now Taya. Yeah, and you know, part of me, look, you guys know if you've been rocking for a while, I not defend Tony, but always give the benefit of the doubt until you could see where it was just petty little dick stuff. And this is one of those things where I know he only cares about that, his own thing, and to each their own, right? But I just think it's, the snowman never fails. I just think it's one of those things where some people would pause to, I don't know, maybe not. But that stuff comes back to you eventually. Not that it's a big deal, pro wrestling, but it's one of those things etiquette-wise that it kind of irks me a little bit. Let's continue, though, because we'll get to their match in a bit. You know, I already spoiled the ending. PCO is and I forgot to mention that at the beginning. I'm a sucker for this, man. Kudos to the production team and whoever creative and whoever shot this shit. I like this stuff. My first passion is film, and to have a segment with character in it and a character, which is something TNA's always had, to Impact now with Abyss and Judas Macias and Black Rain and Relic. You know, we've always had characters, man. What's going on, Dato? We've always had characters, and they've always had a great part of the show where they were in the Bowery, they were somewhere, they were, you know, so it was always RK Shuttlesworth, what's up? Tony obviously thinking about what he needed for his show in Canada. Yeah, of course. Him first. You got to eat first. Sure. But he's got about 300 other Canadians 300 people on the roster. I'm sure there's another 20 he could find. Bunny, for instance, no. But I get it. But yeah. So it's cool to have another character like this. Creatively, it's fun. It's different. And PCO, I know on the damn power rankings, I had the blue PCO, the one with the black that looks cool, that they just upped his game, leveled up PCO. I think he looks phenomenal. Has his arms cut off. So if you are watching Impact, help me out with that picture. Give me a PCO with arms. But I love this stuff with PCO, and here he's going to pass by the Samstown sign. There's going to be a couple other things about that. Vegas sign as well. I just think it's smart. Did I miss the one with Vegas? I did miss the one with Vegas. That's the one I should be talking about. I'm jumping to the Samstown. So Vegas sign first. Just cool aesthetics, man. Adds depth to the show. Next up is Bayley and Gresham, and they're slapping again. And Bayley hasn't forgot that Gresham beat him in that pre-show countdown match. So he's challenging him to sacrifice. So we're going to get that again, because why the hell not? And this time it looks to be on the main card. I don't think this tag team's going to last. To fulfill the prophecy of Team Canada that I hope we're getting here, Bayley has to be part of that. And when you're talking, no matter if it's Josh and his turn, he already has foes set up. Rich and Kaz come to mind. Friends, now foes. With Bayley, there's keeping Gresham close, and it makes sense for that to be another person. To when there is inevitably a 3-on-3 Team Canada versus whoever, these three can step up. Gresham, Kaz, and Swan. So, little WCW, NWO there for you. Who's the sixth man? Third man? Who's the third man? Who's the third man? Bobby Heenan, man. Looking back, by the way. Ruined that shit. Love Bobby Heenan. I could see a Speedball versus Gresham best of going forward 5 of 7. Yeah, 5 or 7. I like that. But anyways, we get sacrifice match, and that's number 2 of those 7, man, and I'm excited for that. After that, Swinger is coming out. He's on that road to 50 for the world title shot. I was wishing it was tag title shot, or it was to get Swinger's dungeon back at the least, but I don't think we're going to see the results of the 50 wins regardless, so I won't spend too much time on that. And this isn't going to be a case where it changes that statement, because Jay Vidal is going to win here. Before that, you're going to have Zicky get kicked out. And then you're going to have Giselle and Savannah get kicked out. But before they actually leave, Deanna's going to come in, attack them both. Deanna gets removed first. Jay picks up the win. Like this for Jay because, Swinger played it off as he didn't know he was a wrestler, and that's something we can laugh about and whatever. But it's that slow roll for someone like him who came in as a character. Had some matches prior, but then was signed in as a character first. I like this. A slow roll with him. Shows off talent. Looks like a young Scotty Riggs from the side or the back. Anyone know? Anyways, Dr. Listen, I thought Johnny was going to win. Yeah, I want to see him get those wins. All he needs is one victory. Yeah, and then 49 more, but one's got to start that momentum, right? But they're building this Kong Taraj up. We got to think of a different name because obviously none of them are Kong. But Jay here, what I really like, besides that he looks like a young Scotty Riggs from the side and back, is, like the slow roll, as I said. It showed off his athleticism. He had every taunt button on his controller in this matchup, but he got him out there, and I like that. Keep going. We're going to go backstage first. To the design, and the design look. I said what I had to say again last week. It's been not a love-hate whatsoever. I don't hate the design. I love every character in there. I think they are something. They have something. They've definitely went from what I thought was cringe to now being something that's generally an a plus to the show. But I still think there needs to be some fine-tuning on the branding of that. I digress. Because here they're going to tell Sammy that Step 6 wasn't him beating Rhino. It was about the punishment for costing Khan his match. So this continues. I'm still on the hook to see where it goes. But I'm hoping it goes into a rebranding and a redesign of the design. But either way, we continue. So PCO is now traveling, and we're going to see the Sam's Town sign. There you go. Now we're backstage with Tommy, and there's a gentleman wearing an IPWF shirt. Shout out to that. And they're talking about something before Mickey joins, and Tommy is talking about getting Mickey in a match next week as a tag team against Masha and Bully Ray. And we get a little of Mickey's reaction, then we get Jordan, who has a much bigger reaction, and rightfully so. The roles kind of have reversed here, in a sense where now Jordan feels disrespected, but at the same time, going back to the initial Jordan and Mickey feud, or the last rodeo, what led up to the last match of the last rodeo and title change, it was Jordan once again saying, do you really think you should face Tasha before you face me? Do you think you... So she has a point. At the same time, they did face Tasha, and she still beat Jordan. But Jordan thinks here she's going to tap out again, and Jordan's going to reclaim her title at Sacrifice. I think we're planting the seeds for the turn of Mickey still. Shout out to Mercedes for talking, by the way, Mercedes Monet, doing an interview saying she's waiting for the bag so she could go face Mickey. Retire her ass. Just waiting for that bag. But yeah, so we're gonna see Mickey and Jordan at is that Sacrifice? And that Multiverse, Mickey's defending. Okay, again in the 4-way. Okay. So damn, there's a lot of matches before Jordan gets her hands on Mickey. Nope, swap that. Reverse. Jordan, Mickey first. Then the winner of that faces the 4-way. Okay, there we go. Either way, let's see where it's headed. She wants to know if it's a good idea. Either way, we get the benefit of watching it, so let's go. Next up is Eddie Edwards, and he's talking about moving on. They put a car through PCO. He's moving on before he can. And once again, does it... I know they can't use his Eddie song that we all sing, but using the Honor No More song, always like, wait, what the hell? I don't know. It always gets me. But he name drops Honor No More, and maybe for a reason, because he's talking about moving on. But there's a video and PCO arrives in the impact zone, and before anything goes down, Kenny King jumps PCO. Kenny King and Eddie Edwards, team alliteration here, teaming up. Taking on PCO, bloodying PCO, eventually putting down PCO after a big fight for PCO, enough for PCO to actually make the rankings as well. But with a chair and a the other Kenny and this Kenny, they put out PCO. Kenny King does the PCO walk. All the love for Kenny King. Don't know what a kendo on the chair would do, but, that's here nor there. Do you guys think that Kenny King is the answer? Do you think he was the driver? Do you still think it was Uber driver and got a lawsuit in our hands? I personally don't think so. They didn't connect it there. Is this a thing where they can... Maybe it was the point all along. It's possible. But could it also be something where they just tie up loose ends and make Kenny King the driver? I think so, but with the timely being done, it was Rikishi did it for The Rock. There we go. It's catching on. The timely contract of Davey ending, it just seemed like it made too much sense for this to be Davey's next stop. Now, unfortunately, there's some real life stuff going on that we're not going to get into, and that sucks. So, true or not, man, what could have been, and what bullshit, man, if true. Like, come on, people need to get their shit together, but who am I to judge? We're all human. Millard saying maybe we get a different version of Honor No More since we won't be seeing American Wolves anytime soon. Yeah, that was my next thing, is if they want to recoup, and that was the original way, Kenny King seemed to be a part regardless if Davey was as well. So if they end it with they end it with Kenny and it's just Kenny and Eddie, cool. That's fine. But the Honor No More mention, the fact that Ring of Honor's back up, it would just be a fun, snub of the nose, finger in the nose if Impact picked up Honor No More back with a new breed. I think it was Jamie Stay Ready who mentioned Vincent. I think that's where he mentioned. Could we see Vincent back? I don't know. We'll see. I just don't, in the heart of hearts, I don't think it was supposed to, I don't think this is where the storyline ends. And obviously PCO needs some friends as well. Maybe that's Vincent. Maybe not at all. But, fucking beard hair. Yeah, so either way, it's intriguing. It's intriguing for PCO. Give him something to do. Show him as a monster with, still shining or hiding his, I don't want to say flaws. I hate saying that kind of stuff. But Island of Misfit Toys stuff, ECW type stuff. You highlight the person's positives and then hide their negatives. And this is one of those things where PCO is a monster doing, brawls and big moves and all that stuff works. And an important character in Impact Wrestling. So, I'm excited for that. We'll see if he adds somebody or not. We'll see if they add somebody or not. Let me know what you guys think should have happened, what would have happened, or what could happen. And we'll move on. Next is, you guys know, is going to be one of my segments of the night. I ate this shit with a spoon. First of all, the guy, we cannot say his name. It is still trademarked. It's still in limbo, or whatever he said, in purgatory. But the formerly known as Kozlov makes an appearance, and him and Santino are hugging it out, excited to spend some time in Vegas together. And I guess Dango comes in, and that's where they can't say his name. But when Santino is saying that, it pops in Joe Hendry. Song pops up. We get our claps from all three. No, it's just the two, right? But I love it. I love it. This is how you highlight Hendry. This is how you utilize the comedy of Santino and Dango, and small and smart execution. I love this stuff, man. Really little funny things to break up everything else in the show, especially after PCO getting his head smashed in. So it's nice to have this. And Hendry is asking for the rematch clause, to invoke the rematch clause. And they're a little confused because he's still the champion. But he's speaking of Brian Myers, which, once again, I love Impact. Always connecting, always ending storylines one way or another, making sure there's a beginning, middle, and end. And in this case, Myers finally getting his rematch at Sacrifice. So it's going to be Hendry versus Myers. And Santino leaves here. But it leaves Dango and Hendry because they agree to be tag team partners next week against Moose and Myers. And Dango's a big fan, so he's a little nervous. He's asking what he's doing later. Millard saying, I really enjoy seeing Dango every week. He's funny as hell. I agree, man. I agree. You know, it's one of those things when you see all these people on the roster, and you're like, and especially after bringing Santino and, you know, got Swinger and Dyke, and you're like, man, okay, how is this guy going to fit in and stand out still? And that is not even a question. Shame on me for asking. But he works, and it works really well. I love him being, you know, next to Santino. And he has such a quirky, dry rebuttal to everything, or he does a really good job in that department. And at the end here, he's just seeing what Hendry's doing tonight, and I don't think they're gonna be hanging out. But Dango, if you want to hang out, man, let's hang out. Love this segment. Next up is the Knockouts Tag Team Championships, and it's the Coven taking on Taya, and so Team Ragnarok, Taya and Rosemary here. And Kylan officially crossing the line. I thought that was a safe one. I released that just because I said it last week, the relationship with Bully. You know, if he's your trainer and he's someone maybe you still turn to for advice, not only is he there, but and I don't think he would be biased like that, but I think he can look at the landscape and say, hey, for the first big contract of your career, this is a great place to develop your character, develop you, and become a familiar face on a regular basis with the company. And I just think it made too much sense, especially the I am here or arrived thing. It just felt right, but they're winning. And once again, this show is spoiler free. It gives us half our content because I don't look at the spoilers. I got some crazy theories that don't ever pan out, but I'm glad I didn't look this one up. But the Coven wins here. Kylan pinning Taya, which is a little thing to come. And our buddy Joe Live, I tweeted that as well. Joe Live there in the front as always, and he looked shook. Everyone looked shook, man. I saw people looking around. So a surprise for people. Obviously, there were no spoilers there. What did you guys think? Are you happy a new tag team is in the picture? Are you nervous that this is probably leading to the death of Taya in Impact? Are you excited about the prospects of what could come? I seriously think there's a lot that comes. I don't know if the Bunny crosses the Undead Realm. That would be cool. But I think they're doing a good job of building some new stables, building some new units. And finally, I think we're going to get a couple tag teams that could be there for the long haul. And then we can develop more. But they're getting the victory here, man. I'm excited that Taya quickly off the roster page. Yeah, dig it. Next up, Matt and Tom are going to talk, and they're going to talk New Japan, what's coming up there, and then, of course, what's happening next week. I always hit it at the end, so I'll save it for that, and we have a lot to talk about. So let's get to the main event. We're going to have Josh, Kaz, and Swan as a preview, a little dry run for them as a tag team, or trios. Before Sacrifice, before they take on Time Machine, they're going to take on Bullet Club here, and Bullet Club, specifically Bay pinning Swan, are going to get the victory. Bullet Club picking up the victory here. There's a little distraction there. This was one of my gripes about the first episode after No Surrender, is that we got to sell Rebellion. And it goes to the Bullet Club and Team Canada thing that I've been talking about for the past 2 weeks as well. It goes to taking care of Impact. Taking care of that intellectual property, taking care of our pay-per-views and our talent. And it's good to see that even though this is a kind of a warm-up for what's going to be at Sacrifice, a little wink to what's at Multiverse, they're not taking Macklin versus Josh out of our minds. So Macklin is just there viewing, he's watching, not doing anything heel, mind you, and causes that distraction for Josh, which is interesting. Josh being distracted has been laser-focused, so interesting there. But it does cause the distraction. Once again, Bay getting the pin on Swan. And a banger of a main event. Banger of an opening match, banger of a main event. Impact doing it right. What did you guys think? Millard saying, maybe this is why the Hex didn't win the titles last Impact Plus show. I hope they come back. I hope the Hex does too. Once again, an established team that I think if you can differentiate the gimmicks, once again, I don't think they're witches. I think it's more like I said, the Scooby-Doo band, the Hex, right? I think you could do that, right? Especially with Death Dolls maybe or most likely going away, and Decay or some version of more dark Havoc and Rosemary coming in. You have a room to play with a rock or dark thing with the Hex if that's their shtick. Either way, that would add another third tag team there, and I don't think that's not why they didn't win. I think it's a matter of yes, Taya wasn't signed, or yes, Mickey's not signed, but I think it's a matter of making sure they're locking up their talent, making sure the people they build with these titles are there for the haul, and if the Hex, just like what they did with Ashley Green, different thing, Steph DeLander and Anthony Green, kind of same. They test the water, see how they do, put them in some profile matches, and we'll see if they stick eventually. I hope the Hex comes back as well. With that being said, we're going to go to the results. What did you guys think of the show? The poll results. You guys had it on a B the last time I checked. That's where I'm going as well. I'm going to go a little higher. I thought this was a B to B plus for me. Some depth here, some changes, and specifically Champagne Singh. And obviously Kylan sticking around and winning those tag team titles, putting on some new blood there. Macklin being elevated. A lot of good things, a lot of depth, and they're also doing something that's very important. As I mentioned, they're juggling 3 important shows at once. Can't argue with that, but what do you guys think? Sometimes we don't think bigger picture like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. You want to know how was this show in particular, not just how does it affect the 3 shows. So what did you guys think? I'm going B+ on there, but let us know if not here in the comments. Thank you for that. We're going to roll into hot topics because there's 2 shows. Speaking of those 3 shows coming, there's 2 shows coming up that we want to get to and talk about the card there. But before that, I want to mention, well, first, congratulations to Masha for winning the GCW title. That's pretty cool. And action figures, go check that out. The action figures are out for pre-order. It's Jordan. We've had him going around that Tron for months now. Jordan, Deanna, Moose, and Eddie. They don't have a full picture up yet, and they're $45. But if you love Impact Wrestling like I do, go buy some $45 action figures, guys. Impact doing things. Hey, at least we got them. I will say that. And before I hit the 2 shows up, I do want to mention, obviously, Scott getting a promotion here. No longer vice president, at one time co-vice president with the one Don Callis, but now it was sole vice president, and now moving his way up to president. I do not have a tie or a suit on, so as far as job details, I don't know. But you would have to assume with Ed Nordholm getting a promotion as well, that it puts more on Josh. Well, see, a Freudian slip. They're going to be together eventually. More on Scott for this to be his baby, to not maybe have as much oversight, to do and make the choices for himself and whatever. Does that make a lot? I don't know. Was there a thumb over? Who knows? So I don't really know the effect of the day-to-day. But it was interesting that they brought in, and correct me, I know you guys will, if I'm wrong, bringing Richard Schaefer in as the ex-CEO of Golden Boy to come in here. Look, the same with Lou, man, who was not only in the wrestling game, but integral in, what was it, Cirque du Soleil? I always butcher that shit. And now this Richard Schaefer guy with Golden Boy, they're bringing in people who can not only market and obviously brand and all that great stuff that Impact has needed, but put on new I don't want to say brands, new companies isn't the word, I don't know what it is. But they're trying to, in the press release mention, they're looking to acquire more combat sports brands. There we go, that's what we'll say. And wrestling brands. So what does that mean if they're still looking? I thought ROH was something that they were really going for. Obviously, it didn't happen. Is NWA for sale? Look, I know it's for Access TV and not just for Impact, right? It's not necessarily specific to professional wrestling, but it was there in the presser as well in their comments of they're looking to acquire more combat sports and professional wrestling brands. So it'll be interesting to see what this leads to, or what the attention that these guys will all have and what their job entails. See, I don't know all that. I would like to know more. Critical Sting saying, hey, what up, Critical Sting? The NWA, oh boy. Yeah, for me, it's not about what's going on in the companies. I just thought it was really interesting that they said they were looking to acquire more. And what excites me about the NWA, if that were to happen, is it's not about the roster. I couldn't tell you, to be honest, who's on there. But the titles are cool, right? That's important. But we were NWA TNA for so long. I think bringing TNA back or getting us a second show in the long run would be an awesome way to go. An NWA TNA show would be dope as our secondary show. So for me there, it's just about brand, not about where they're at now. It's lineage and so on. But regardless, I'll wrap this up because I don't have too much on it. Obviously, I'm pushing my way through. I get what you're saying, but I watched the most recent episode of NWA USA. It's rough. Yeah, once again. Not buying the talent, not buying the team and creative who puts those together, not buying anything production, just the brand name. And I believe you. I believe you. Why they have two different shows, I don't know either. But either way, promotions all around, and the little I do know about that world, or in my experience in those kinds of worlds, when it comes to those structure, sometimes when someone is given more responsibility, it gives more time and focus for someone else to focus on something else that's more important. I don't know. It's gonna be a long one, guys. Let's just move on. No tie or business suit here. But congratulations to Scott. Definitely earned it, man. And to hell with all the naysayers, man. He's one of those people that is always around the wrestling business and generally good things around the wrestling business. It's not just, where's Scott this week? He's on NWA USA. He's always what prominent bands or brands are doing positive things in. Was it TNA? Was it New Japan? Was it up north, with his own stuff? So always around doing great shit, man, and kudos to him for what he's done with Impact and his time here again. Speaking of which, I'm not going to get too far into Multiverse because there's not really, too much when it comes to storyline besides for the main event. But I do want to mention that the announcement of the live Impact, which will be a live studio countdown-esque show for Multiverse. And I saw it was Terrence was the comment. I apologize if I got that wrong. Saying that Multiverse of matches is greater than the card for Multiverse United. I don't know, man. I got them both here. They kind of, there's some things I would want if I could just mush them together. But both exciting stuff. What do you guys think? I'm excited either way. But what we're getting with this live Impact is, it looks like it's going to be the interviews, the backstage, the studio analysis, I'm guessing Tom, Matt, and so on, is all going to be live. And then we're going to kick it to matches that were pre-taped. It looks like the Kenta vs. Josh match that was taped for the title will be on this episode, which is interesting because he's also defending that night against Kushida. So I am worried of how this is all going to play out. But what I really like about it, showing the Kenta vs. Josh match that they taped too, can't wait for that. Yeah, I agree. I'm excited for it, don't get me wrong, but it's going to be a... if he wins here, he's going to go on later to face Kushida. I don't know. I don't know if I like all of that. Sounds a lot like This Is Impact episode that aired when they debuted on Access, where it's a mix of the two. I think that's where we're headed. But for me, this is a good sign of testing the waters. Has nothing to do with ratings. Has nothing to do with are the matches live. This is them going live. Well, obviously kicking live, but running live to not live to tape. That's the wrong term. But doing live in pieces while implementing some other things. You're still doing that's for production, that's sound, for the people who will be interviewed or in front of the camera. Going live is a nice little test to see if we can handle this. I mean, there's times where we would be scared going into Impact Plus Special, wondering if the sound would be messed up on a regular basis, and we still have some things, or the cuts would never, wouldn't be right. So regardless of if this leads to a continuously live episode on Thursdays, we'll see. But as far as testing the waters, this is a good sign, not only for our relationship with New Japan and what we're doing there to make it feel important, but we're testing the waters as far as, can we handle it from truck to production to this and that, produce a live-ish show. I'm excited, man. And I know it's a little big victory, but we take them where we can. Once again, we couldn't have 3 commentators commentating a few years back. So little big victories. And if we can nail this and it's just smooth, that's a giant plus. Now it sounds silly, but let's call a spade, guys. So very excited for that. I'm nervous on Ospreay. Anyone got any information on Ospreay? Is he, I know he was injured and he was pulled. I'm guessing to rest him up, it's not much time. What do we got, 11 days? But hopefully, I don't know the severity of the injury or if it is severe at all. But man, that card needs to have Ospreay versus Bailey on there. It also has the Josh versus Kushida, as we mentioned. Jeff Cobb versus Moose. He had his arm in a sling a day or two ago. Cast or just rested up. Ooh, I feels like we're gonna have a substitute match. All right. Well, that's unfortunate. Hopefully he's at least there in person. But damn, man, what a kick in the nuts in that case. Multiverse United, yeah. So Cobb versus Moose, Trey versus Connors versus Kaz versus Swan versus Knight versus Rocky Romero, Kenta versus Suzuki for the Open, strong openweight title. BC defending their titles against Aussie Open, Motor City Machine Guns, and TMDK. Mickey versus Diana versus Shaw versus Yamashita. And Coughlin, Callahan, Rosser, PCO versus Eddie, Hendry, Kratos, and Lawler. Send ELP. I'm with there, man. That'd be cool. Look, yeah, I guess in a star power way, especially Ospreay out, I'm with you there, Terrence. But it's still going to be a fun show. Still going to be something very exciting. And at the very least, we're going to get to see how this live, to whatever you want to call it, live from studio, can play out. So it'll be a fun night. Hope you guys are there for the ride. Not next Thursday. 2 Thursdays? Math. All right. But I want to get to Sacrifice, obviously, because that is coming up. That will be here before I see you guys next. Millard saying congratulations to Masha as well. Yeah. So Sacrifice, we have, of course, Jordan versus Mickey. Looks to be like that's going to be the main event. Jordan, I don't know if she's going to take time off, but she's got her first competition, or has some competition coming up for weightlifting. So, hey, maybe showing up with the belt wouldn't be a bad thing. I don't know if I think I'm going to keep Mickey here. I still think that heel turn is the play. I still think Mercedes is the go. When? I don't know. Do we think Gail's first up before that? Possibly. We are in Canada, so we'll see. Maybe there's an open challenge and Taya comes back. I don't know. But we do have an open challenge. Not really, but a hand-picked opponent from Santino to face off against Trey for the X Division title. And I like this a lot because there is a possibility, of course, it's already someone on our roster, sure. But the proximity of these two shows being so close, it most likely is going to be someone from New Japan. Who do you guys have here? Trey versus who? Is it someone on the card we already mentioned? Is it someone completely different? Is this just someone from Impact? It's possible. But either way, we're going to get a banger out of this. Critical Stink saying sacrifices the showing up to a big dinner and get that one dish that you refuse to finish. What? Sacrifice dish that you refuse to finish. All right. You got Bullet Club versus TMDK. They're defending their tag team titles there, back-to-back against them. So that's Multiverse and Sacrifice, one in a multi. The one dish bully versus... Oh, Tommy. Fair enough. Let's jump to that, because after that we have the Busted Open match, Tommy versus Bully. I'm guessing this is the write-off here for that feud. Looks to be, we're all hoping that is. But they're not. Look, I said it last month with the debate or whatever it was, that they were going to do something that didn't disappoint, because they always put stuff down and then they do something to make sure it works out. Unfortunately, did not. This though, how can you get a first blood match wrong? Two smart dudes, so I think it's gonna and veterans in this business, it'll be good. Maybe we'll have the LaGreca do his little thing. I'm ready. Next, we have the DMC, which we already mentioned. We got Myers versus Critical Sting. You still got me, man. Myers versus Hendry, invoking that rematch clause. Myers Hendry. You got Josh, Kaz, and Swan taking on Time Machine, and this is obviously, now that I got my dates right, this is a preview before we get Kushida versus Josh one-on-one Multiverse that following Thursday. So weird. Is that weird for anyone else too, man? I know I'm such a old head when it comes to wrestling. So just the Friday from Sunday thing is already enough. But we're back on Thursdays again, and there's just so many. Our shows are on Friday, but we have a Thursday show on top of it. Yeah. We're gonna get a run back of Deanna versus Giselle. Hoping Deanna gets revenge here, but if not, Giselle, they're pushing her. PCO versus Kenny King getting locked in here. Tommy beats Bully with help from Devon, is what Millard's saying. It's a cool prediction. I still thought, Devon, especially with us losing out on American Wolves, if that was a possibility, bringing back Team 3D would be pretty cool for a last run. Especially with their history here, right? Send them off on a good note. But it looked like Bully last time I saw him or heard him in an interview, I think with Chris Van Vliet, had mentioned that Devon isn't going to go in the ring anymore, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I'm wrong, but I thought that's what he said. So for PCO versus Kenny King, so we're going to at least continue that story as well, which makes me happy. And then Gresham versus Bailey. I'm sure they'll add something to the countdown for that, but that's Sacrifice. Friday the 24th. Perfect timing. And then we'll get Multiverse on the 30th. What are you guys more excited about? I want to know that. I'm to be honest, I'm most excited about Rebellion. But there's obviously, I'm not going to overlook these two shows that are in front of us, especially with some damn good lineups and some juice on the bones here, man. Or some meat on the bones, some juicy storyline. There we go. Get all the all the stupid metaphors in there. But don't want to miss this, because next week, before we get there, we have Virtuosa taking on Savannah Evans, Time Machine versus Design, Myers and Moose versus Hendry and Dango, and Ray and Masha versus Mickey James and Tommy Dreamer. A lot of action coming out of Impact Wrestling. A lot of possibility for the outcomes of these matches and storylines and people coming in, people leaving. But I will say, for last week we kind of mentioned that. I talked about it because I saw a lot of people, even on Impact staff, kind of being Debbie Downers when it came to the position of Impact Wrestling. I feel like, I don't know if there's momentum by any means. I can say quite the opposite. When it came to No Surrender and such, we all kind of felt like we were on a plateau a little bit. But it felt like they're holding back for something. And with these three shows, boom, 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 I think we're getting into our next year. Our next cycle. I still think there's some big possibilities with storylines. I still think that Team Canada's coming. I still think Mercedes is coming. And I'm going to keep saying this shit, guys, because if it's not manifesting, it at least has some very little sway in the universe, because we got Champagne Singh. I don't know. On the top of that, guys, I already mentioned the action figures. Retro review still out with Josh. They just had Mia and Mickey from Bound for Glory, which was cool. They just had another diary with Giselle Shaw that was released. Impact is doing things. It might not be, where you guys want to be right now or where we want to be, but we're headed in the right direction. And I think there's a lot of little big things that are going to start hitting. And then some big things that are going to start hitting. And it's going to be a good year, 2023. See Millard saying FTR in the future. I have FTR written down. And there was a mention. Hey, look, I say so much crazy shit, so why not manifest this as well? But FTR saying they're gonna announce what their future is in April. That's when their contracts allegedly run out. Yeah, I don't know. It was really weird timing for them to be brought back on AEW television if they're leaving. I don't know, right? I think there was reports also that this is all work and that they have long-term contracts there. I don't know. But they are a damn good tag team, if not one of the or the best in professional wrestling. Millard said, I trust your crazy shit, Jeff. Thanks, brother. It generally is crazy shit. But, you follow the breadcrumbs, you see FTR talking about they'll announce where they're going to go or what they're going to do next. You see how close they are with Mercedes. Wouldn't that be a cool... Hey, if we're going to shoot our load with money... Critical Sting saying Dax is a worker in more ways than one. Yeah, so we don't know, right? If you do know, you're lying. Or if you say you know, you're lying at this point, unless you are FTR. My money's still on them staying. But, there's going to be people that we're losing or have lost that we really haven't spent that money back yet. I'm sure Taya wasn't cheap. I'm not manifesting things whatsoever, so hopefully Moose stays. Is Heath on it? There's some people that we don't know where they're at. Could they wrangle that cash and make it a big money, well, I don't know if a big money offer, but a big time offer to at least get them in for a Mia Yim like thing? And I'm talking FTR and Mercedes, maybe, I don't know. But Bay doing an interview recently saying that would be his dream opponents for Bullet Club, for ABC, as I hope they become. But of course that's going to be the dream opponent. Now, at the same time, playing devil's advocate, being optimist Jeff here. Optimist. I would say, looking from their shoes, there was some bullshit in the place they worked. There were some things backstage. There were some things on camera that they just feel like they weren't presented the way they wanted to be or whatever that, once again, they are workers in more ways than one. But following the breadcrumbs in that regards of just kind of taking things, it doesn't matter what they say. You could see how they're presented and what they did. And that, how can you argue with them being, belt collectors and all that? But I think we all know. And people like that know they're that damn good, I don't think you rest on your laurels, man. I don't think you just sit there and say, we got the money. Okay, we're not getting presented exactly like, we don't know if we trust this guy as much as we did at the beginning. We don't know if we like the locker room as much as we did in the beginning. Whatever it may be, you bet on yourself. They did it once before. It's possible they do it again. Either way, it would be interesting for me, especially the time in which we're talking about this. I want to end it off on this because I know I mentioned slowly like all these little things that obviously big and whatever, but also the little victories I mentioned because I always mention the commentary one because we couldn't have 3 people on commentary. But not only important to mention these little victories, but it's important to see where we've been and where where we are, so we know that where we're going is possible as well, or all these fantastical things I say is possible as well. This is the anniversary, 319. I remember it vividly. Max and I had a show prior that we did, a podcast that talked about all wrestling. This was before I moved away, and we eventually picked up this one, obviously, 135 episodes ago. But we were doing a show, we filmed it live to tape, boom, ready to put it out, and 5 minutes we got off air, Bobby Roode and Eric Young walked out of Impact, and rightfully so, being owed 6 digits. No, was it 5 digits? And they couldn't take it. Enough was enough. And it was one of those moments where it was the last guard. Bobby and Eric, man, Team Canada, both leaving on 3/19. And I remember the feeling. I remember being a day oneer, just being broken, man. And now to be in a place where not only is our roster full of people who I think, when you look back on the annals of what this period meant for the future, could be the equivalents of Bobby Roode's and Eric Young's. So it's cool that we're retaining our people. It's cool that we have the possibility to even talk about the likes of FTR or Mercedes or insert person here. Or we're not, and this is no offense to Taya, but we're not sitting here crying over Taya leaving. It's a different time. The rail, it's not falling off the rails as one person leaves, or two people. Now, granted, those were bigger stars to us at that time, obviously, but it's just a cool thing to look back on and remember those low moments, so we know that we're on the precipice of being on those high moments. So, like where we're at, guys. Where do you feel we're at? Martin, I bet the inspiration gave FTR the backstage lowdown on how Impact treats talent. Yeah, good point, man. I think there's a lot of that. I think there's a lot of people coming to the realization of what each locker room means, or what each locker room represents, or what the locker room, temperature is. And that's one thing, no matter what you can say, or what people want to say. This locker room feels tight. They feel like they have each other's backs. They feel like they want to stay, and that all plays into what I was just saying, I guess, as well, which is it just feels more family, and it feels like we're back in those TNA days. So I'm very excited about that. Excited to see where we go from here, guys. Thank you for sticking with me, rocking with me through this episode. It's been a weird one. I'm all over the place. I got a lot going on, guys, but I thank you. And I thank you for that, too. Always checking in on me, guys. And being here and watching and liking and subscribing, all that shit. If we got nothing else, I want to say thank you. I want to tell you next week, Lucha will be back for the post-sacrifice show. So we'll be right back here Sunday talking about that. And then previewing, I guess we could preview Multiverse as well. And then, yeah, there's so much, guys. Either way. Excited. Thank you guys for rocking me. Love you guys. Thank you for coming out. God bless. Good night.